Hello, everyone. My name is Isra Sam Moore, and this is my Advocacy and Action project, which is my final presentation. My advocacy focuses on educational justice and human rights education, especially raising awareness about Palestine and immigrant rights within K through 12 learning spaces. Through my research, I found that Palestine is often invisible in U.S. curriculum with Palestinian perspectives excluded. Young students also lack early human rights education, limiting empathy and critical thinking. And for immigrant students, fear, exclusion, and trauma create barriers to their success. Research from our course about multicultural education promotes inclusion and why advocacy is essential to dismantle these systematic barriers. As a Palestinian advocate and educator, this work is personal. I grew up without seeing my history or identity reflected in school. This project merges my passion for human rights, my culture, and my role as an educator to create spaces where students learn empathy, justice, and the power of their voices. I partnered with Students for Justice in Palestine, or SJP, whose mission is political education, community solidarity, and youth empowerment. They provided support and mentorship through my project. I interviewed Mustafa Sulman, SJP's national organizer. He emphasized the importance of youth engagement, accessible educational tools, and creative activism like poetry and art. And here is our Zoom, links with a picture below. The interview inspired me to develop the Teach Palestine Youth Toolkit for K through sixth grade learners. It also encouraged me to host a Palestinian poetry night, connecting advocacy with art and community. Mustafa reinforced that flexibility and cultural sensitivity were key. My SMART objectives were to develop and distribute the toolkit, host poetry night event, collect post data, evaluate engagement and knowledge for growth. My targets included K through 6 students, parents and caregivers, educators and youth and adult community members. I anticipated opposition from political factions resisting Palestinian rights, anti-immigrant groups, and bureaucratic barriers. These challenges highlighted why this advocacy was so important. My key messages were human rights violations in Gaza must be addressed. Immigration injustice affects student success. Education should be safe and inclusive. Art and storytelling can empower youth and build understanding. I created the Teach Palestine Toolkit, including a history timeline, vocabulary cards, a storybook, coloring pages, and reflection prompts. It was piloted with a small group and feedback was gathered. And here I included the flyer and also the Teach Palestine Toolkit that goes home and a book that was included as well. And this is some of the vocabulary: freedom, hope, resistance. I included a quote from an actual child from Gaza as well, that the children can connect with other children. For this slide and the next slide was my data collection for the toolkit. I used surveys, participant reflections, observational notes, and engagement tracking. I included charts and graphs of the toolkit survey in this slide. So you can see, what was your role? These are some questions. How easy was the toolkit to be used and understood? 60% had said very familiar. How easy was the toolkit to use and understand? And they also said 80% had said it was very easy. This was the next. I did a graph based on which activities did the children engage in the most. So the storybook, there's a percentage. Also, did the toolkit help child development and understanding the Palestinian culture and human rights? 100% said yes. And if the child had an option to participate, they could answer, how did using the toolkit make them feel as well. The next one was the poetry night. And with that, I also did a community event of poetry. This was the flyer to create a safe space for all ages, culture, and queer identities to express emotions about Gaza. And here is the data collection for the poetry night. And so that was again surveys reflecting just overall questions. How would you rate their experience? Did the event help you feel more connected to the community and cause for Palestinian liberation? Which part of the event impacted you the most? Poems, music, art, or open mic? 75% had said open mic and poems. Would you be interested in attending another event like this? 100% said yes. And what emotions or thoughts did you leave with after attending? And 75% had said inspired, 50 said sadness, 50% said hopeful, and 25% said angry. For my reflecting process, my strengths were creativity, leadership, adaptability, and data collection. Growth areas included navigating sensitive political context and expanding parent engagement. Success included the toolkit, the powerful impact of poetry night, and positive feedback from SJP. Roadblocks included time limitations and the emotional challenges of this work. This is my follow-up, the project. So I shared my finalized toolkit with an advocacy report with SJP. I also provided suggestions for using the toolkit and poetry night model and other chapters and communities. And it was very successful. And Mustafa Sulman will be using the toolkit, and also the poetry night was a huge success. My final thoughts are this project strengthened my skills as an educator and an advocate. I created inclusive learning tools, led impactful community events, and witnessed how education empowers young learners to understand justice and resilience. I'm committed to continuing this work and ensuring marginalized voices are always heard and celebrated. I included this in my last presentation, but these are photos from the poetry night. It was a beautiful, empowering evening with beautiful people of all ages, races, genders, and cultures. They shared art, music, dance, stories, and in solidarity. It was beautiful. This is the pages of my references, and I just want to say thank you so much, and I can't wait to learn more about your final presentation as well.